Welcome to another edition of PodJerky. I am your host, Direktor Awesome, aka Tom, and today I am joined by John from Pod to Vod and the Basement Surge and Basement Reloaded. I believe it's the third one. Yeah.
No, I'm not doing reload.
You're not
anymore.
doing reload anymore,
No.
so it's just the two. So he's got the
Yeah.
two going on. He's got Basement Surge and Pod to Vod.
Right.
So welcome to the show. I haven't had you on yet, so this is your first.
Thank you
on
very
PodJerky.
much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's about time, Tom.
I know. We've just like I've told you in the past, like we had so many pre-recorded episodes that we have in the can right now that we just keep like trying to put out, and I still have like 3 episodes from I believe 8 months ago that I haven't even put up, like I haven't even uploaded yet to even put out, and I'm like using those as an emergency backup kind of thing. Because when we were off with the pandemic, we were working from home, but because the job that I do, it's difficult to do the virtual learning with special needs kids. We had a lot of time, so we just recorded a whole bunch of crap. So we got some stuff done, and then now I have some time to do some actual like good recordings now with guests and stuff like that again. So
I mean, that's good that you have stuff in the bank, because you don't want to get caught with your pants down, so to speak.
Right. So we have like my second show is the Northern Touch show, and I do that with Thrust and DJ Despair. And we have our shows, like we've already recorded our shows all the way up until August 14th right now. So we're already set for we do it bi-weekly, so it's every 2 weeks right now, but we have enough to go to August 14th, which is great. And we're going to try and do like a year's worth of stuff, because Thrust being a recording artist, DJ Despair being like a media guy, like they get busy schedules. So if they run into an like a situation, I'm going to be there going, I got nothing. So we're going to leave it at that and try and go with as far as we can into I guess recordings, and then that's it, and then we'll see where it goes.
I mean, that's great to have stuff in the bank like that all the way to August, because running 2 shows like I do, and then scrambling from week to week trying to think of topics, and then getting my co-host over here to record, and it's just it's a job.
Oh yeah it can take up a lot of time.
Yeah, so it's like sitting down and recording a whole bunch of episodes. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I just I'm not one of those ones that, okay, let's record on a Sunday night for a Monday release, because I don't have the time to do all the editing. If I have a day, I'll do a few recordings, and then I'll do the editing for it, and then they're all ready, and then just pop them up, and then they'll be just scheduled for release. So I think it's better that way for myself, just because of the schedule I have. Now summers I have off, so I have a little bit of a more open schedule for that, so I can do more recordings like on a daily basis if I wanted to, but not anything right now, because I'm still at work.
Yeah, I mean, for me, no matter what show I work on, I like to record anywhere between Monday and Thursday. After Thursday, because I have a Monday release, like you, and anytime after Thursday, I can't do it because it's too much. I like to take the weekends for the family, and so I really have only Friday to really edit and put stuff out.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it could be a pain, trying to schedule that, but I mean, because there's a lot of shows that record over the weekends and do that, but I like to schedule my shows between Monday and Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it goes by like the podcaster's schedule, right? What they'll just have to do it whenever they have free time. Some people just do one a month. Some people do weekly. Some people do daily shows, right? So it all depends on their schedule and when they can do it. With Anchor, I think you can just record right on the app and just like upload it right then and there. It's crazy though. There's just the things that podcasting is doing, what you can do with it, with all this video stuff now, and a whole different video market, which you are getting into, which we're going to talk a little bit about later on. So there's a whole bunch of things that are going on with podcasting, and it's been really fun. And when I started doing this, I never imagined this is where we would be. I never imagined I would have, a sign sitting like behind me, or having the chance to interview like Ken Shamrock, or, like I never thought that would happen. I thought, hey, let's go on, let's just shoot the shit and just have some fun with it. And then we met all of these like awesome people, and we got to, build this group up, and, we started like virtual conventions, and then, you didn't think any of this would happen. And now the evolution is going into video. and a lot of people like to watch people talk on video instead of just doing it through audio. And it's just it just keep growing.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first started podcasting last February. You know, it was like me and my co-host on the Basement Surge, we just started it for fun, you know, just to, you know, sit around and talk about old times and talk about being a dad and games and wrestling and all this other stuff. And, you know, and it's really turned into something of a production now because, you know, like you said, you know, things are moving the way of video, you know, live streaming and vodcasting and YouTube channels and all that. And, you know, it's more involved, you know, especially since, you know, you try to have your show emulate like a TV show kind of, you know, because when people are watching, you need to keep them interested. They don't want to just see a couple of guys standing around just talking.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, even for me, that gets kind of boring. So, you know, you got to try to keep it interesting. And the podcasting medium, I think, is going to go through a couple of different evolutions over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Like, I mean, even with your setup, like you have an amazing setup for your show. You decorated your studio amazing. And like, you know, when I first started, I had this microphone on a little tiny tripod that was this big that I was talking into on the top of a shoebox, whatever it was, on a little desk that was like 12 by 12. Like it was just a little tiny thing that I was doing it on. But now, you know, you move into it and you've got the lighting and you've got the arm and you've got this printer for doing merchandise and you've got, like, you know, audio setup, and I've got 2 screens now going, and, you know, you didn't think it was going to evolve into this. And it's just really interesting. I remember when I used to shoot, I used to use my laptop camera, and everybody always used to comment on me and saying, "You look orange. Your whole entire setup looks orange." And I was like, you know, I look a little bit off from everybody else, but it was just the laptop camera. My laptop that I use here for podcasting is about 10, 12 years old. And it was just my second laptop that I'm using just to do this stuff. And it still works great just for what I'm doing with. But I had to upgrade my camera, and I had to get the ring light, and I had to get the boom arm and the, you know, and everything else, so that everything went smoothly now. And now it's just going well.
Yeah, I think you know, when you start podcasting, you should really just start with the bare bones, you know, just like a mic on a shoebox, like you know, and then you evolve, you know, whatever your show needs you to get, you're gonna get. You know,
well, you got to think of, are you going to enjoy doing it first? So that's where you don't want to spend all the money to do it, because you don't know if you're going to enjoy it at first, right? And then if you don't enjoy it, then you just wasted all this money for nothing. But if you do enjoy it, then you start to build, you know, what you have for your show, and it turns out to be really cool. But it can be expensive. But I mean, you know what? The sound quality is so much better, and I would rather listen to somebody who has good sound quality over like a really bad recording. So, I mean, you need that equipment in order for it to be that kind of a recording.
Right. And I think there's a statistic out there, too, that says that if you do a vodcast, if you have video in your show, you have to have great audio, because people are more forgiving towards good audio than they are towards bad video.
Right.
You know, so if your audio is good and on point, then they'll continue to watch. But if your video is bad, then they won't watch at all, no matter how good your audio is. You know.
Well,
you know
I think that goes because a lot of people don't pay attention to the screen at all times. Mm-hmm. So they're more listening to it. They're on their phones or doing other things, cooking dinner, whatever. They can still listen and kind of watch at the same time, but, you know, they don't have to have the video at all times, as long as the audio is there. Now, if I'm hearing crackling in the background, or I'm hearing, you know, hiccups here and there, like all the time, then you know what? No, I don't want to listen to that, because then that starts to get annoying for me. That's my personal opinion. I don't know about everybody else, but that's my personal opinion. I'm going to shut it off. When we first started, we said, you know what, we bought the cheap mic, and I returned it right away and got like the better mic, so that the sound quality was much better. Because I was like, no one's going to listen to this. First off, no one's going to listen to it anyways, but we didn't know we were going to be where we are now. But, you know, no one was going to listen to it anyways. But then if the sound quality is that much worse, then they're going to turn it off right away anyway. So, you know, we tried to go with what we could, and here we are.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're thinking about becoming a podcaster, you're going to read a whole bunch of articles on the industry. You're going to watch a whole bunch of YouTube videos on how to become a podcaster. And I can almost guarantee that everything you read and everything you watch is going to say that audio is key. Okay. Audio is what you really need to concentrate on. So get yourself a good mic. Now, you don't have to spend $400 or $500. You could spend $100. Let's say, when I started, I had the Audio Technica ATR 2100. Now that's a great mic. Most podcasters don't even move off of that mic because it's so good. So now they have, because they discontinued the 2100, they have the 2100X now, and so it's a little bit of an upgrade, but it does the same thing. So it's just it all depends on how you want to start. If you're really going to take it seriously, and how much money you want to invest.
Yeah. I mean, it's been great doing all the shows and getting to connect with other people and building the show up. And, it got me to connect with, some Canadian hip hop stars, and it got me to get some like different guests on. And for our other show, like I said, the Northern Touch show, we actually have a really cool guest that came on that we've already pre-recorded. We don't want to release the name yet because it's going to be coming up in, I believe, the first week of June. That his episode, September. But it was an awesome interview. It was really, really cool to have him on, and it turned out to be a two-parter. So when that comes out, it's going to be really interesting to see the reaction for people. It's not a big name, but it was just an interesting guest to have on, and hoping that a lot of people have seen his work so that they know who he is. But it was just really, really cool to talk to him. And you don't think that's going to happen. Like I said, the Ken Shamrock interview that I did, and this will tie into what we're actually going to talk about, is a little bit of wrestling. Ken Shamrock actually worked in the WWE. Like when I reached out to them, it was just a shot in the dark. I saw like some sign up sheet, and it said, you have to have a certain amount of listens and this and that and whatever. So I just filled out the form, and they got back to me within a day, and they were like, yep, he would love to come on the show. And then I was sitting there going, I don't know if I can do this, because I'm going to be so nervous. Like, this guy was like at UFC #1. Like, he was at the first UFC. He was a WWE. He was a multi-time champion there, like Intercontinental Champion, Tag Team Champion, Hardcore Champion, all that stuff. He got to do all that stuff, and I'm like, I just took a shot in the dark. I didn't think it was actually going to happen, and then it did. And
oh no!
Like, I got nervous, saying like, I know how to talk to him, but it's kind of like, you have that person in front of you that you're just like nervous about, or you just, it's almost like a celebrity that's just sitting there, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting this person. So, that turned out to be really, really cool. So
I know how that feels, because I actually sat down and interviewed Jeff East. Now, Jeff East, like nowadays, nobody really, knows, or I don't want to say cares, but like he's a minor celebrity, and he was the actor who played young Christopher Reeve in the Superman movie in 1978. And I had a total fanboy moment, because I love that movie. Superman's huge to me. I love comic books. Superman's the best, kind of thing. And Christopher Reeve, I grew up watching that movie. So, and to actually talk to him, to have the chance to talk to him, the opportunity arose. One of my other fellow podcasters was having him on his show, and he invited me on his show to help him interview Jeff East. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm coming on. Like, that's awesome, And if it wasn't for podcasting, like, that would have never happened to me. Like, talking to these people is just, it's amazing, because after that, I've interviewed, Perez Hilton, on Clubhouse, I talk to a bunch of people in the industry that I wouldn't normally have access to.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's amazing.
And that's what podcasting does. That's what podcasting does. It brings community together. It gets you an opportunity to talk to people you would normally never get a chance to talk to. Yeah. But we're going to get into this episode as well. I mean, we're set to talk a little bit about wrestling. We're both wrestling fans, or were wrestling fans. Not a fan of the product right now. It's not not great. I grew up in the Hogan era, and all the way up until like the Attitude era. I was a fan of WCW and WWE. That Monday Night War was just phenomenal. I mean, that was just great because it brought out the best in both. So you had, NWO going, and then you had Steve Austin and McMahon feud going, and that was just like killer. And and A&E has come out with this whole series on this biographies that they have done, and they've aired 4 so far. By the time this recording goes out, they'll have aired 5. So they did the first episode with Steve Austin, and that was just fantastic stuff. And then they did Macho Man, and then they did
Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper, and then they did Booker T.
Right.
And those were all great. And next week is one that I'm really looking forward to, is Shawn Michaels. Yeah. That's a huge one that there is a lot of dirt on the background of that. From what his background came from, and the shit that he caused backstage before he became like a born again Christian, and all that stuff, and found God and did whatever he did. But there was a lot of dirt on that one, so that's going to be a really interesting one. I'm looking forward to that one a lot.
I find it interesting that this Sunday, May 16th, they have Shawn Michaels, and then next week after that they have Bret Hart.
Yes.
So
yeah.
It's kind of that in itself, I think, is controversial a little bit because of what they did to Bret Hart back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
But this series is really awesome. I'm really enjoying it. And my favorite one is Stone Cold. I love Steve Austin. He was always my favorite, and especially in the Attitude Era. Yeah. Like you said, with him and McMahon, and
Yeah. Well, I used to wear the Austin shirt, and I'd get up and I'd stand on top of my car, like on the roof of my car, and I'd crack a beer and I would drink it. I got pictures of it from when I'm younger. Everybody used to say that it was like, yeah, go do it. And that guy just changed wrestling. You had the whole, PG era, I guess they would call it back then. You couldn't say like ass on TV, and then he came along, and here you go, toughest son of a bitch. And, I still remember that speech that he changed his whole career over from King of the Ring. And that was when he wrestled against Jake the Snake. And, you sit there and you thump your Bible and you say your prayers, and it didn't get you anywhere. You talk about your Psalms, you talk about John 3:16, Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass. And that one just changed everything for him, because the next night, here's the Austin 3:16 signs, and then the merch went out the window. Like, it was just crazy money for them. And
they capitalized on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was really crazy. So who are some of the other favorites that you had growing up before the Attitude Era came in?
Well, I grew up with Hogan, Jake the Snake, Macho Man Randy Savage, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and I remember vividly when I was young that I had I believe it was Super Nintendo wrestling game. I think it was like WrestleMania something or other. I can't remember the exact name of it, but I loved that game, and I think that eventually led into the early 2000s when they released the WrestleMania 2000. But I grew up on Hogan. I loved Hogan. His whole Real American theme song that they had going back then was great. I still go nuts when I hear it.
I still blast it in the car. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah. Because that was our childhood. I used to beg my parents, Saturday night's main event, and it was at 9:00 at night, and I used to beg, can I please stay up and watch it? Can I please stay up and watch it? And they'd be like, oh, I don't know. No, it's too late. You go to bed. And then that was that one time where he fought Andre the Giant on a Saturday night's main event. And it was that screw job where Ted DiBiase bought the title off Andre after Andre won. And we were all just sitting there in shock, because my parents actually let me stay up and watch it, because they knew how big of a wrestling fan I was. And I had all of those, like, if you remember, the action figures that they have today are like this big, they're not, and we had the big rubber ones, like they were like really big rubber ones. And I was very disappointed, because I wanted Hulk Hogan for like the longest time, and my parents for Christmas got me SD Jones, and that was Special Delivery Jones. And I was like, oh, and they got me King Kong Bundy. Sorry, so it was SD Jones and King Kong Bundy, and I was so disappointed, because I was like, all I wanted was Hulk Hogan. And it turned out that they looked everywhere for Hulk Hogan. You could not find one. So they're like, we looked everywhere, we couldn't find it. And I was just like, okay, and then I just started collecting them. And I ended up with a collection of like 30 or 40 of them. And I got out of a wrestling phase for a little bit. And I had like a kid down the street, and we had a garage sale, and I was selling them for like $1 a piece or $2 a piece. And I told the kid he can have all of them for $2. And man, do I regret that decision now, because do you know how much those things are worth right now?
Sure.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I was like, at the time
it
was for the kid, right? So
right, yeah. I had these little action figures. They were made out of rubber of the wrestlers, Hulk Hogan, I think, and a couple of the other ones. And they had like a hole in their back.
The thumb wrestlers.
Your finger in.
Yeah, it was the thumb wrestlers. Yeah, so you could like wrestle them. I had Nikolai Volkov. I had Hulk Hogan. I think I had the Iron Sheik. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of them. So yeah, they had some really their marketing was genius. It always has been. I mean, they had a lot of the toys out for the kids like us to play with. Now it's more internet based, where just go watch YouTube videos and relive your youth and stuff. I could get lost in watching Stone Cold videos all day long. Like I could just watch the next one after the other, right? So yeah, and then it kind of turned into I got to see WrestleMania 6. I went to WrestleMania 6, and that was in Toronto. And
awesome.
I got to see Hogan versus the Warrior, and that was the main event, title for title. And that's where that kind of passed the torch. So when my dad took me, he said to me, he goes, I bet you anything that Hogan wins and retires. Now, don't forget, this was in 1991. WrestleMania 6 was in 1991. And he says, I bet you he wins the title and retires. How many years later, and this guy's still kicking? He's still around. He's still won titles way after that. I was like, Dad, you're nuts. Yeah. You're nuts. It's not happening. So
they keep bringing him back for the showman, for the showmanship, because he brings the money. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he has been on all of these A&E documentaries, and the guy's so full of shit. He's really honestly full of shit. A lot of the stuff, I did this and I did this and we had this kind of relationship. If you listen to a lot of the other guys talk about him before, like they're all like, we hated him. Like he was just, he would never do a job. He would never do this. And then he's on there going, I was the one that made this happen, or I did, this with this person, and this person didn't like me, and I was the one who helped Macho Man through this and this and this. And it's like, I can't listen to this guy sometimes because he's full of shit, but he's still my childhood like icon, right? I was like, I'm torn here.
I know. I know. I mean, I had seen a video once that said that that Hogan was one of the wrestlers who got the opportunity to call the match, like to who's going to win the match, because he wasn't going to lose to some lower guy,
he had creative control.
Right. Yeah. He had creative control. And, it's like that was kind of in his contract, and he was the smart guy, I guess, to get that able to be put into his contract. Yeah. But he knew his worth. I think he knew that everybody was coming to see him, hear the music and him rip open his shirt and just go wild and on Hulkamania. But
I think it was Jeff Jarrett he didn't want to do the job to, where he said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not sure, was that from the Booker T episode that aired last night?
I don't remember.
Yeah, they were saying because he had creative control, they wanted Jeff Jarrett to pin Hogan. Hogan said, not a chance in hell that's happening. So Booker T got the shot and ended up winning the title. Because it was just something that Hogan said no to. And a lot of people have done that with Jeff Jarrett. A lot of people didn't want to do the job to Jeff Jarrett for some reason. I don't know what it was. He
was a joke.
Yeah, it was just, he wasn't a bad worker. He wasn't a bad worker at all, but it was just, I don't know what the situation was backstage. I know there were issues with his dad, Jerry Jarrett, where he, had owned part of the territories back in the day, and then Jeff Jarrett came up and he was kind of involved in all that, and things just went from there. But we move into the Attitude Era, and I think that was the greatest era of wrestling. to date.
Oh, it was the best.
Nothing could take that. You had, DX, you had NWO running in WCW, so they were opposing that. You had Steve Austin going, you had The Rock coming in, like up and coming, where he was having amazing feuds, and Vince McMahon got involved into that, and the storylines felt real. They just felt real. And every week you would turn into, so I would watch Raw on Monday nights from, I believe it started at 9 o'clock here and ran till midnight because it was 3-hour shows. And then the next day I would watch Nitro on repeat at 4 o'clock right after school, because it was just like, no, but it was just so like the head-to-head thing. You had to see what was going on. And then, Goldberg came around and NWO was around, and, Sting was still kicking. And it was just interesting to watch that whole thing. And I used to record every single Monday Night Raw. And I don't even remember now how many tapes I have, but it's close to 70 or 80, which they're all 6-hour tapes, and they all have like 6 hours worth of Raw on them. They're still sitting in a box in my basement, just over in the closet over here. But, if I ever wanted to, you made the point of, you can just watch that on WWE Network. Right. I don't have the WWE Network, but I also don't have the time to sit there and watch full episodes of Raw, nor do I have the time to put a tape into a VCR and find what I'm looking for. So, you just search the YouTube clips now and you're good. But yeah.
Are your tapes in chronological order?
Yes. They're all labeled. They're all labeled from it'll say Monday Night Raw tape number 1, and it'll say January this date to January this date. So I would label them as I went along. I didn't do that afterwards because that would have been a pain in the ass. But they all went in chronological order. So I have pretty much the entire Attitude Era on VHS tape that I had recorded from TV, because sometimes you wouldn't even get to see it because you were like, you had to go to work or you were out late or whatever. So I would record them off TV, and then I just kept like keeping them. And I did that a lot with ECW too. ECW had a show on TNN. So I would record all of those, and I ended up giving them to my buddy because we were going to turn them digital, because he had the machine to do it. And then he moved and he lost all my tapes. So I was like, oh, whatever. Yeah. So I was like, that's crazy. Yeah.
Jeez.
Now, have you ever had a chance to meet any wrestlers?
I met Jake the Snake.
Did you? Yeah.
I met him when I was little. He was doing like one of those exhibition matches over here at one of the local churches. And my dad took me and my cousin. And I must have been like maybe like eight or 9. And we sat there for like 2 hours. Everybody wrestled, and then afterwards, Jake the Snake came around with his bag, his special bag with the snake.
Damien.
Yep. And he's like, "You want to pet my snake?" I was like, "No." Like, I don't like snakes, but he was a cool guy. I really liked him. He was cool. He was nice, and contrary to popular belief.
Yeah. We just did an episode called something about celebrities that I have met along the way throughout my life. And I met a lot of MMA guys, but a lot of the guys that I had met are from the WWE. And one of the stories that I told on the show was, they used to come to Toronto to do their shows. So either it was like WrestleMania, or it was a Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, whatever it was. And what happened was they would all go to one restaurant, and it was always the same restaurant that they would go to because it was near the hotel that they would stay at. And the restaurant was called Eastside Mario's. Now they would go down to this restaurant, and everybody knew it. So you tried to book a table well in advance so that you could get in there. So a friend of mine had booked the table well in advance, and we got the table, and then the wrestlers came in. So I ended up meeting Nikolai Volkov. I met Godfather, and then I met Pimpin'? And I met Christian, and then I got to meet Val Venus, and then the biggest one that I got to meet was Edge. Now I got to talk with Edge, and it was a pretty funny story. Is he was eating his dinner, and my friend was like, "Oh, I already went and I met Edge already, so go and get his autograph and go and talk to him." And I was like, I'm not going to go up to him. He's eating. I don't want to bother him while he's eating. Nice Canadian guy, saying, no, I'll wait, and my friend's like, no, he won't care. Don't worry about it. Just come. And I was like, no, I don't want to bother him while he's eating. So we go up to Edge, and he's at the table, and he looks over, and my friend says, hey, this is my friend Tom. He wants to get your autograph. But he's too shy to ask you. And I was like, oh my God, I am not shy. I go, I don't want to bother you while you're eating. So he ends up signing my autograph to Shy Tom from Edge. So, and I still have that in a photo, in a book, photo album. And it was really cool. So it was like, he goes, we understand, like, as a public figure, we understand that this is going to happen. We're going to get interrupted while we're eating or while we're at a bar or whatever. We understand, but I appreciate the fact that you were going to wait. And I said, nice. I just don't like that. Right. I don't like bothering somebody if they're eating. I got to meet Bret Hart. He was at a pizza and he was doing autographs there. And it was just like, man, it was crazy there. Like, this guy is like a Canadian hero here. So everybody that, goes and sees him. So we waited there and we got to meet him. I got to meet a couple of wrestlers in line while we were waiting in line for an event in ECW. He came out and took pictures with me. I almost ended up backstage at a ECW event because security thought I was a wrestler. So I got there and they told me to go straight in. And I was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, you just go straight in. He's like, everyone's here already. And I was like, who's here? And he was like, Paul Heyman's here and Taz is here. And I was like, so I can just walk straight in? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, do you know who I am? I was like, I'm here for the show. Like, I'm just here.
I'm a nobody. I'm just a guy.
I'm just here to watch the show. And he was like, oh my God. He was like, I was that close to getting backstage and getting to meet all of those guys.
You should have went with it.
But I
went along with it. Man.
I was just like, man, this, like, it was so early in the morning because it was a first come, first serve for seating. So we went to stand in line and wait to get into the building. And it was 6 o'clock in the morning when I had got there, and it was already like a half an hour, 45-minute drive just to get over there. So I was up so early. My head wasn't even straight on yet. So I was just like, whatever, I just, it would have been a cool opportunity, but it didn't happen, but it was pretty cool. So yeah, I've got to meet quite a few. And then I got to interview Ken Shamrock, like I was talking about, and he was in the WWE for quite a long time. So I've gotten to meet a couple of these guys, and it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. I haven't like interviewed them or spoken to them in my adult life, but they seem like they're pretty cool guys. I'm pretty open to interviews and sitting down, even with the little guys. So yeah, I think I should try to get a wrestler on my show. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's the goal. Like I've tried reaching out to a few of them. Haven't heard anything back from them. Edge, I reached out to before his return. Before we even knew that he was coming back, I had reached out to him. He hasn't even seen my message. And a lot of these older guys that have been back are making like appearances in like AEW now, because AEW is a big scene. So Christian's there, big shows there in AEW. A couple of the other guys have gone over there. So, I think it's hard to get them booked on any of the shows, unless, they're not like active anymore. And a lot of these guys go and they work as agents backstage or producers backstage for these events. So it would be kind of hard to get them, but it would be so awesome to be able to, sit down and talk to Steve Austin.
Oh, man.
But that guy never does interviews, right? He doesn't do a lot of interviews. He does his own show, but
he's got his own podcast. Yeah.
How cool would it be to sit down and talk to The Rock?
Oh my God.
It's amazing. Like, I had Matthew Moy from Two Broke Girls on the show, and I had asked him about Kat Dennings, and he said, Kat Dennings is, she doesn't care about any of this stuff. She goes, she does her job, and then she goes home and she just wants to be in her garden, and she just wants to, she's not into the whole, like, look at me thing. I want to, like, all this publicity thing. She doesn't care about any of that. So it could be
that's why she was with Josh Groban.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it could be any of that with even these wrestler guys, right? It's like they might not want to do it and just want to keep to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know I almost lost my crap when so I don't know if you allow cursing on the show. I'm sorry.
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I almost lost my shit when I found out that Sergeant Slaughter followed me on Twitter, and I was like, oh my God, like Sergeant Slaughter, like I grew up watching him, and now he's following my show.
But
And
did that come out of nowhere, or
it did?
Yeah,
It did, because I wasn't following him. And the only people in the WWE that I was following were the major guys like Rock and Austin,
right.
maybe even Shane, but
Yeah.
it's like he just came out of left field with it, and it was like, hey, and then right away I was like, bam, how about you come on my show? And
Yeah.
like he never answered me.
Yeah. But see, I think the goal is, and I don't want to give it away because this is going to be my angle to it all, is you sit and you listen to these guys' backstories, and you sit and you hear like Booker T's backstory, and you hear Steve Austin's backstory. And yes, a lot of work ethic has been put into it, and a lot of hard work. It's all there. It's all there for them. And they created their own path to success. But I think a lot of them, they always say it was, I needed that one shot. I needed that chance. And somebody gave me that chance. And that's going to be my angle. Give me that one chance. Pay it back where, you said, absolutely, this is how it was. And I do it the same for, how you preach it. And I'm sure they've given, like, I know they've done a lot of charity work. They've done a lot of stuff. So no insult to them for that. I mean, but, I think that's going to be the angle that I play to try and get them on, just so that, and whoever's listening to this, do not steal my ideas and try and get them on before me. You can have them after I do, but I think that's going to be how I try it, because maybe there's going to be the one of them that says, you know what, I'm going to give him a chance.
Yeah. And then you have to let them know that you're not going to ask them the same questions that everybody else asks them. Right. You got to just make it feel unique and unique to your show, I think, especially when you're trying to get, celebrities or minor celebrities on your show. Yeah. But like to get one of those guys like Austin, I'll retire after that. Like, all right, I'm done.
My show's going to have, 25 million listens in one night, and I'm done.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. It was fun.
Yeah. That would just be so cool. But, like I said, like A&E is doing a like fantastic job with these things. They have the show biographies for legends. And then, so they have, like we said, they have the Bret Hart episode coming up, Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, and then the Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior is going to be really, really interesting. And I don't know if you're following the one where they're going and looking, the Lost Treasures, I think it's called. So I'm watching the Lost Treasures series as well. And every week what they're doing is taking one wrestler and they're trying to build a museum of all the stuff that's gone from back in the day. So they've had Jerry Lawler on, and they wanted to find like the crown that he wore in his first match in WWE and didn't know where it was. So they go traveling around and they go looking for this stuff. Yesterday they had Booker T, and he wanted his black robe that he had on. And one guy had the black robe because the black robe was the last time he ever wrestled. That was his final match as King Booker. And some guy had it and he wanted $10,000 for it. And he said, no way. He said, I'm not paying you 10 grand for this. So he says, what we'll do is we'll do a trade. He goes, I'll give you $2,500. And then I will give you Queen Charmel's dress, one of her dresses, so that you have a piece of that. And I will give you my NWO trunks, which are one of a kind. Nobody has a version of these because there's only one pair ever made. So he goes, I won't even have a pair of them. And the guy said, I want 10,000 plus that stuff. And they're like, wow. Oh, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. So they left and they went over to Steve Austin's house, and they asked Steve Austin to do a video call, and he did. And the guy gave it up for 2,500 and the stuff, right? So he got his robe, and they had one with the Undertaker and Kane. So they went around. He just said, "Oh hell yeah!" They showed the whole thing, and he was like, it was really cool talking to you. And this was like he has one of the coolers that Austin has from one of his like in-ring appearances where all the beer was, and so he has one of those coolers. So he gave him the hat off of his head as well, and said, "I'm going to give you this hat, and you give him the robe for 2,500 and the other stuff he offered you." And he said, this was a once in a lifetime opportunity, just like we were saying, retired, I'm done, like he got a chance to do that. And that was really cool. But yeah, to go on, like they had Undertaker and Kane on as well. And they were looking for Kane's first mask that he wore in the WWE. They were looking for Undertaker's first purple outfit where he had the black and purple instead of the black and gray. And they ended up finding it in Undertaker's storage unit that he hadn't like touched in like 10 years, 15 years. He didn't even know it was in there. So they have these guys just traveling around looking for stuff. And they had Booker T on yesterday as well. And they found JYD's collar. So Junkyard Dog's collar. And they ended up having to pay $7,500 for that to a collector.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of these guys have all of this stuff that they collect, and they're looking for like certain things that they can't find, and it's all going into this museum. So it's going to be really interesting to see when they have this all done, of all the memorabilia that they have from throughout time and throughout history in the WWE.
I would so go there. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people don't realize is that like all the costumes and the makeup and everything that these wrestlers come out with, you know, when they first make appearances, WWE isn't giving them anything.
No,
you know, they're not dressing them. The wrestlers have to actually make their costumes. Yeah. So I guess somewhere along the way, you know, it's like they're losing them or giving them away or throwing them out of the ring, you know,
or they auction them off to charities. They auction them off to charities a lot of times.
Yeah, a lot of the.
Sorry, and you think about Austin, like you said, like they don't just give you these costumes and stuff. Like when Austin first came into WWE, so he started off in WCW as Stunning Steve Austin, and then his real name is Steve Williams, and they said, you know, you can't be Steve Williams because we have Dr. Death Steve Williams here already, so you can't be Steve Williams. So they came up with Steve Austin, and then he moved into WWE where he's the ringmaster. And we knew the guy could work, but DiBiase was his mouthpiece, and DiBiase was like fantastic on the mic. That guy was just gold. He was a great heel character. Nobody liked him, and that was his job, and he did his job excellent. And you know, then you know they kind of shed away from that and let Austin talk on the mic, but they didn't have a name for him. And he tells the story of his wife came up with the, hey, your tea is going to get Stone Cold, and goes, that's it, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And you hear the ridiculous names that they came up with, like Iceman or Ice Pick or something like that. And all of these names that they had come up with. And he was like, oh man, like, can
Steve had hair back then too, didn't
he? Yeah. and you think of like Cool McFreeze, like that was one of the names that they had pitched or something like that. And I was like, can you imagine where his career would have been with a name like that compared to Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was in the cards for him.
Sure. Yeah, so, and the charisma, you know, he brought the charisma to it too. Yeah. So,
but I guess it felt like an everyday man, right? Like everybody loved him because he was kind of like us. Like we were just like, we want to kick our boss's ass, we want to do this, you know, and we want to swear at people, and that's what he's doing, and we're, you know, we're good with that.
I want to drive a beer truck up to the ring and spray my boss with a bunch of beer.
And then watch them swim in it, you know, and oversell. And, you know.
I want to visit my boss in the hospital and hit him in the head with a bedpan. You know, I want to do that.
You know, I think that was one of my favorite scenes ever in a wrestling, like backstage promo shoot or whatever it is. That was just fantastic stuff. Like, you know, you didn't see Austin standing off in the back with the nurse gear on, the doctor's gear on, and you know the nurse is talking to McMahon, and you know, and all of a sudden you hear, oh, I'll take it from here, nurse. And then, you know, McMahon's eyes light up, and he, you know, comes around and he's like, you know, no, and he's just punching the face. And then apparently it was improv when he grabbed the bedpan and just smacked him over the head with it. So that was really cool. Did we lose you?
Hi.
There we go. I was like, did we lose you? What happened there?
All right.
So I don't know where I left off there. So what was the last thing I said?
The bedpan McMahon.
Did you hear the story that I was saying about it? Or
no.
Okay. So I was like, the bedpan thing was all about, like, it was like probably one of my favorite scenes ever, because you saw Austin you didn't see Austin standing in the background there, and he had like the nurse or doctor gear on, and then the nurse was talking to him, and then all you hear is, oh, I'll take it from here, nurse. And then McMahon just the eyes light up, and then he's just pounding away on the broken ankle or broken leg. And then they did that improv. He goes, I just grabbed the bedpan and smacked him over the head, and the sound that made was just classic. It was just great. I loved it. It was such a good segment.
Like the whole Attitude Era with Stone Cold was awesome. What Stone Cold really started to annoy me later on, when he started the what movement.
I love it.
I mean, it was great at first, you know, and there was a time for it, but every single time he's was talking, the whole audience would go, what,
Yeah.
and it was just, I was like, all right, enough.
But he did that because the audience ate it up. And then think about what he did with that. He turned it into a t-shirt and made millions off of that t-shirt. And all it said was what across the t-shirt. And
see, we need to do that for our shows.
Right. So I did like a reel I haven't even put out yet. And it just says, what? And it has like the PodJerky logo on it. And, I was just like, I'm just going to play on this. It's, like what isn't trademarked by anybody. You could do that all day long. I can say where, pardon, whatever I want to say on the shirt. Right. So I'll be the nice Canadian and it'll say pardon instead of what. Yeah. But it was just genius. And he ate it up and he let the crowd, he said he was annoyed by it as well. And apparently it started with a conversation that Christian had called him and on the cell phone and left him a message and started talking and saying, what? And it was actually Christian who did it. So he started to go along with it. So yeah, it was just interesting. So, it took off. He made money. The guy made a killing in wrestling and he's doing so well for himself afterwards. Like he's been in movies, not that they're any good, but he's been in movies. Yeah. He has a podcast. It's like one of the number one podcasts in the world next to like Joe Rogan, like his Broken Skull Ranch. The Broken Skull sessions are great. They air those on TV as well on network TV. So those are like fantastic. So so much stuff that he's been doing, and I don't know where the wrestling industry would be without him. Yeah.
I mean, you know what? I think the only wrestler who got away with acting was Rock.
Yeah.
Because John Cena tried it in The Marine. Did you see The Marine?
I did not watch it and I don't care to watch it. I don't want to see John Cena in a movie. I don't want to see The Miz in a movie. Piper did really well. Back in the day. But The Rock is like Hollywood's biggest star now. So
wait a minute. Hogan was in Rocky, wasn't he?
He was Thunder Lips.
Yeah.
Thunder Lips. Yeah. So, I mean, he was terrible in that as well. But, The Rock, he's not a fantastic actor. But he's watchable. He's an action guy, and his movies are over the top.
Don't get me wrong. He's been in a couple of flops. Like the
Tooth Fairy, the Mummy. Yeah. But you watch like Skyscraper, and you watch that, and you go, "This is so like, there's no way anybody can do this. They're so over the top." But you can still sit and enjoy them because you can still say, "That's The Rock." That's it. That's the only reason I can stand to watch them. And we always kid about them. Amy and I, is our first like go-to movie is always 2012, and that's our nap movie. If we ever want to take a nap on the couch during a weekend and 2012 is on, we have to watch it because we'll know we'll fall asleep. And the new one that we kind of transition into from that is San Andreas, and that's one of the Rock's movies as well. And I'm like, that movie. It's a good movie, but it's again way over the top. Like there's nobody on the planet would ever be able to do all of that shit. I'm sorry, nobody. Flying from the helicopter and then parachuting out and landing in the stadium and then protecting everybody against the stadium and then getting into a car and then rescuing the dog. Like I know it's Hollywood. I know I suspend my disbeliefs and whatever, but at the end of the day, you're just like, come on, this is just unbelievable shit. Unbelievable. Right. But it's entertaining. It is entertaining.
Yeah.
And he's box office
Rock is really good. I do think that his movies over time are getting progressively better.
Yeah.
Like he's got a new one coming up, Black Adam, for DC Comics, you know, and I think he is perfect for that one. Judging by the way Black Adam even looks in the comic book, looks exactly like Rock.
Yeah.
So I really can't wait for that. So
he's got the charisma, he's got the size, he's got the look.
Yeah.
He's a Hollywood like dream for them because they know they'll capitalize on that money. But for me, when he first started out, I was like, yeah, I can give this guy a shot. And then he did a couple of bad movies, and it was like, I don't know, still The Rock. And then you saw the action movies start to pick up, and you were like, okay, I can see this. He's like the new Vin Diesel kind of, action star, kind of Arnold kind of movie thing, and you can watch it. So yeah, they're interesting. But the Black Adam one, it looks like it's going to be really good. Yeah.
So okay, so now if he's in a movie, what do you call him? Do you still call him The Rock, or is he Dwayne Johnson?
Dwayne Johnson. Well, you see Hollywood markets him probably as The Rock because that's the name that's marketable, right? That's the name that would be marketable for him. But how do they market that without getting trademark infringement from WWE because they probably own that? And but can they call him Dwayne The Rock Johnson because that maybe not trademark? I don't know how they market it, but that's interesting. Yeah. Like, as you know, The Rock playing Black Adam, or is it Dwayne Johnson playing Black Adam?
Right. Yeah. Or Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Right. Right. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be really good. We'll see where they go with it and see how it works out.
Yeah. Yeah. I really think he was made for superhero movies and action movies. You know, he's got the physique for it. But he is looking kind of old. Have you seen his Instagram pictures recently?
Yes. Yeah.
Like his skin is getting kind of old looking.
Hey, we all get there, right? I'm like, I got all of this white growing in when I let my beard grow. Like I haven't given it a trim in a couple of weeks. Yeah. But I'm like, you know, and then my wife will say, oh no, it looks better on men because they look more distinguished. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know, I'm in my 40s. It is what it is. Like I'm not gonna care anymore. Like this is all gone on top here. So who really cares? I don't care anymore.
Yeah. No, so my wife makes me shave. She won't let me grow a beard.
Well, I said I'm not shaving this until like